Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to one of Middletown School District's pride and joys, the Capstone Room, here at Middletown High School for tonight's 2019 Meet the Candidates Forum, sponsored by the Middletown Board of Education. My name is Ed Estrada, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's event. This evening, we have 4 Middletown School District residents who are interested in filling the 3 seats on the Middletown School Board of Education that will become vacant as of July 1st. The candidates who will appear on the May 21st, 2019 ballot are, from your left to right, Mr. Vincent Crescenzo, Ms. Rose Tobiasen, Ms. Linda Jansen, and Pastor John Williams. I'd like to remind Middletown School District residents that the annual school budget vote and board member election is your opportunity to have a say in your public education system. In addition to the budget and school board election, there will also be a $9.5 million referendum for the replacement and/or upgrade in ventilation and central air units at Truman Elementary, Maple Hill Elementary, Carter Elementary, and Middletown High School. There is not a tax increase related to the referendum, as the bulk of the request is covered by state aid, and the remaining amount derives from the district's existing capital reserves. Your opportunity comes in exactly 2 weeks, on Tuesday, May 21st, when you will vote on your school district's proposed budget, the referendum, and 3 members to the school board, each of which will serve a 3-year term. Voting sites will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 21st. Those sites are Truman Moon Elementary School, Presidential Park Elementary, and here at Middletown High School. To find out where your particular voting site is, you can contact the Middletown District Clerk, Taryn Clark, at 845-326-1196 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can also go on the district's website at www.middletown.cityschools.org. You hit the district tab, scroll down to the budget line item, and click to find your location. We also believe you can still register to be able to vote on May 21st. Please confirm by contacting the Orange County Board of Elections at 845-360-6505. Tonight, we hope the forum will provide all of you with information regarding our school board candidates. To do that, we'll try to keep the evening running as efficiently as possible. Each candidate will be allowed up to 3 minutes to give an opening statement, and once the opening statements are completed, we'll begin with questions covering a variety of different topics. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to complete their responses to each of those questions. At the end of the evening, each candidate will have an additional 3 minutes for a closing statement. Our timekeeper, Mr. Andy Warren, will provide visual reminders to each of the candidates in regards to their time remaining. They'll get a 60-second cue, a 30-second cue, and a time's up cue. You will get, the order for tonight's forum was selected by a draw held with the candidates prior to tonight's event. As a result, Vince Crescenzo will begin with his 3-minute opening remark, and then we'll go on from a left to right rotation, with each candidate having an opportunity to go first on a specific question. With that, we'll begin our forum this evening with opening remarks and Mr. Vincent Crescenzo. Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. I'm Vince Crescenzo. I've lived on the corner of Watkins and Jay for the last 21 years, married to Lorraine Foreman-Lombach, who, by the way, directed at least 10 plays choreographed right here at the high school. Let's see. I retired after 36 years as a special education teacher, 33 of those at the Orange Los DeBosis. I've been retired for 9 years this June 30th, and I've been very community-oriented since. In the past, I've been on supervisory boards, one with the NPO Federal Credit Union, which is now the Hudson Heritage Credit Union, the SUNY Orange Morrison Lab School, and currently I'm on the board of directors of RECAP, the Regional Economic Community Action Program, which is an incredible program that serves our community at the poverty level and below. Also, something I'm very proud of is I'm a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate. I work through Judge Krahulik's family court. We work with foster families, all the principals involved, the children, the foster parents, the respondent parents, what have you. And I work with one family and report directly once a month to Judge Krahulik, make sure that they have their programs intact and everything's running well. I started on the Middletown Board of Education in 2004. If you remember, that was one of the darkest times in this district's history, possibly the entire state, as we were racked by a horrific scandal. Actually 2003. In 2004, I became president. These were 5-year terms back then. I was president, and that was the year we hired Dr. Kenneth Eastwood. Mr. Estrada, myself, and John Perino went to Oswego to interview Ken and the board administration up there. And after a lot of deliberation and interviews, we hired him, and that was one of the best things we've done with this district. At that time, I really want to believe that through my presidency, I formed consensus, as this was a time when Dr. Eastwood, as you can see around you, was an element of change, and change was very difficult at that time. So that was the first 5 years, and now I came back. I was elected 3 years ago, and the reason for that, actually, honestly, is that I didn't know for a fact, but I had an idea that Dr. Eastwood was going to retire. And having been there at the start, I wanted to be there at the end, and it worked out fine. And being a part of the hiring process for Dr. Eastwood, I wanted to be part of the hiring. What? That was 3 minutes? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Mr. Biason.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada, and thank you for your invitation to attend the candidates' evening. I'd like to begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I've been a resident of Middletown for the past 25 years. My educational background includes a certificate of advanced study in school district administration, a master's degree in library science, a master's of science in education, and a bachelor's degree in psychology. I too retired. I retired from Monroe Woodbury Central School District and from being a peer reviewer for various grant programs for the United States Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. My whole life has been spent in education, either in the classroom as a teacher or as a district coordinator. My community involvement includes being a past member of the Board of Trustees for Thurl Library, where I had the distinct honor to serve as the board's president. I was also a member of the Ramapo Catskill Library System Board of Trustee, and I also served as president of the board. I'm a past member of the City of Middletown's Ethics Committee, and I served as its chairperson. I'm a member and president of the Board of Managers of Clemson Park Condominium. I believe that I have shown over the past 15 years as a Board of Education member my commitment to the educational needs of our community. I believe student-centered decisions, school safety, and understanding and a respect for the educational needs of a diverse community and a fiscal responsibility are issues that I have faced and will continue to support as a Board of Education member. A school board plays a major role in setting the climate for the entire community. Therefore, it is important for the Middletown School Board to set sound educational goals and to establish policies for our district. I am running because I am committed to the educational needs of our community and to the needs of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biason. Ms. Jansen.
Good evening. Is that good? Oh. I am Linda Jansen. I'm running for a seat on the Board of Education. I would like to wish all the mothers here an early happy Mother's Day. First and foremost, I stand with our students. Since 1959, there's been at least one member of my family in the school district. This is an historic amount of time. I attended Middletown schools as well as my 3 children and numerous other family members. When my 3 children attended, I made it a point to become familiar with the school system and setting by volunteering in the classrooms. This allowed me to be able to have the knowledge I needed to better suit their educational needs. I also became a tutor for the Middletown school system because I admired the dedication I saw when I volunteered in my children's classroom. I saw firsthand the dedication and commitment of the staff members towards our students. It was a pleasure. I've been a resident of Middletown all my life. I volunteer with many civic groups and join in on many events focused on creating a safe environment for all residents, young and old. As a member of a large family, I feel we must engage our students and parents in a new creative and innovative way to make learning challenging and enriching for all students. This will collectively create a system of community pride and ownership. Residents and students will want to be part of the community spirit, not just live in the community. I'm a staunch advocate for union rights and their workers. I was a past board member of the CSEA 7900-7902. This unit represented all Orange County government workers, some positions in the Orange County public school systems, and OC, totaling 2,400 union members. I stand with the teachers and other staff members of our school system. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week, by the way. I understand the challenge faced every day with the New York State Department of Education, including the unfunded mandates the state has financially burdened us with. I am also on the Fair Funding Committee trying to work that out. Oh, boy, one more, okay. Another goal of mine is to continue to promote equal opportunities to every community member. Middletown is evenly split among the male and females. This board is made up of 6 males and 3 females. I need to add my voice to this board. In closing, I'm the 4th person on the ballot and in the cleanup spot. In baseball, that's one of the best hitters on the team, often the one with the most power and ability to drive other runs in. I would appreciate the opportunity to do that and ask you that you vote for me on May 21st, 2019. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody that's here. My name is Pastor John C. Williams. I always put the C in the middle so that you don't mistake me with John Williams from the Boston Pops. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Middletown, 3rd generation. I am a 1982 graduate of Middletown High School, and I am just finishing up serving my 2nd term as a board member for the enlarged City School District of Middletown Board of Education. I serve currently as the senior pastor or the lead pastor of Faith Alive Ministries here in the city of Middletown, but have also served in ministry beside my father, who pastored the Greater Upper Room Church for 53 years before his passing. And I served as his assistant pastor. I've also pastored congregations in Yonkers, New York, and 7 years in Harlem, New York. I am also more important than anything else, and more important than any of those positions, more important than this election, more important than anything else goes on. I am the husband of 1 wife, Sharonda Williams, and 3 children, Jalen, Aaron, and Aria, who are students here in this district. I have served over these last 6 years because it has always been my desire to serve not only my community, but also serve the children of our community, as well as ensure that every child has the same opportunities that my child has. And so going forward from this point, the reason I have decided to stay in this election and continue to attempt to run for this Board of Education is not because I don't have things to do, but it is because I feel that we are making impact, and I don't want to see us go backwards. I don't want to see obstacles crop up that we're not able to deal with, and I believe that I have a voice that can make a difference, and I believe that I have the pulse of this community. And so I want you to understand and know this, that I'm not running against anybody that's sitting at this table. Everybody that is here on this table, at this table, is very qualified in their own way, in their own fashion, and I hold them all in high regards and high respect. But I am running because I believe that we can continue to do great things in this district, continue to do great things in this community and this city. And so I thank you for your time, for those of you that came out and those of you that are viewing. And good luck to each and every one of you that are sitting here at the table, even on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. We'll move on now to our questions. Each candidate has 2 minutes for each question. Question number 1 will be led off by Ms. Tobiasen. Very general question. What motivated you to become a candidate for the Middletown School Board?
I guess that's an easy question for me. It's been my desire to be an educator and to stay into the educational arena. The kids are at my heart. I've tried to encourage and be a positive model for those students who I know, and I would like to continue to be that positive model.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
I chose to run for the Board of Education primarily because I have 6 grandchildren in the school system, and I'm at a point in my life where I can devote the time needed to be a very good board member. I no longer have small children, so I just want to make sure my grandchildren are getting their needs met. That's another 17 years, by the way, added to the 60 years of somebody in my family in the school system.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
Several years ago, I watched as this board was in disarray, and that is the past. That's the past. But during that time, I was disgusted by what we had seen and what we had saw, because I believe that it was very important for us that if we were going to try to teach our children how to be respectful and teach our children how to be good learners and good community members, that we ourselves first had to be that. And so I decided to run on that point, because I believe that it's important for us to be first partakers of that which we're trying to impart to others. And so that's what motivated me initially. What motivates me to stay in the race is the desire to continue the good work that has already been done. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo.
Thank you. A lot of amazing things go on here every day, every school day, and even throughout the summer. And I want to be a part of that. We have a student graduating this year, Jesus Rodriguez, who's going to MIT. Last year we had someone going to West Point. There's just incredible things. Our graduation rate goes up every year, virtually. There were 670 honor roll students this past quarter in the high school, and that was up 100 from last year. So it never stops, and I want to see this to continue. I think I could be a very important part of that, and like the Breakfast of Champions, where students who really aren't on the honor roll, but they're working very, very hard, and they're recognized 4 times a year, and their parents are out in the audience, and they're recognized for courage, for integrity, and what have you. And when they come up to receive the reward, you look out in the audience, and you can find their parent. They're the ones with the biggest smile on their faces, and that is it just makes me feel so good. And that's why I'm doing this. This is why I'm here. I feel I can be a very big part of this and keep this momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Jansen leads off for our next question. Now that you've told us why you're running for the school board, please tell us what you feel are the primary responsibilities of the Board of Education.
The primary responsibilities of the Board of Education are to make sure our school is running in a very fiscally sound manner. As a member of the Fair Funding Committee, I'm concerned about the amount of money that we have to pay to the state that is being taken away from our student staff and facilities and extracurricular programs that I think are very important to the school system. I'd also like to pursue acting as a liaison between the city of Middletown and the school system of Middletown, because I think that's very important as it's now starting to open up and give us opportunities where we can open up communications. It's going to be a great thing. We're going to hopefully cooperate with each other and be able to share ideas, all for the good of the students and the staff at the Middletown school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
I believe that the primary responsibilities for school board members are, as Mrs. Jansen stated, is to be fiscally sound, to help maintain fiscally sound, to set policy for the district. But I also believe that one of our primary responsibilities is to be representatives of our community, representatives of the people of our community, to ensure that that their voice is heard, but to ensure most of all that the children's voices are heard and that they have every opportunity to be able to succeed in this life. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo. Sure. Now that you've told us why you're running for school board, please tell us what you feel are the primary responsibilities of the Board of Education.
Okay. Technically, the primary responsibilities are to build the budget, hire and supervise, evaluate the superintendent, and, oh my goodness, this is a, and so, yes, so we need to keep, keep the district fiscally sound. So our responsibility is to be stewards. We don't run the district. The superintendent basically runs the district. I think I left out policy. The district, the Board of Education makes policy. So our job is to make sure that things are running smoothly, to make sure the budget is in place, and to just keep things running on an even keel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
Basically, I feel that our principal responsibility is the budget, and I think that we have to submit a very fiscal sound budget. Yes, we do also set policy, but I think we have to look at what's going on in Orange County, and I think the paper said we lost approximately 50,000 folks that have left the area. Why are they leaving? And basically, it has to do with the tax structure. Therefore, I can say very proudly that this year, I think that the budget process was overwhelmingly a welcome to all board members. The fiscal increase to our property taxes will be 1%. I think this is the first time that that's happened in quite a while. I also think that we need to promote our educational programs, and I think we have to provide the best experience that we can for our students. And that also is linked into the budget process, that we ensure that the necessary finances are there. Yes, the unfunded mandates is indeed very problematic, but it's been going on. We try to make little strides, and eventually, hopefully, the funding that we were entitled to, we will realize, which will also help with our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Pastor Williams leads off for question number 3. From your perspective, tell us what you feel are 2 areas of strength for the Middletown School District and why you think they are strengths.
From my perspective, tell you what the 2 areas of strengths are for the Middletown School District. From my perspective, I don't know if that's always the best perspective, but from my perspective, I think that our strengths are one of our greatest strengths that has developed over the last decade is the ability to be able to foresee, to be ahead of the curve. Middletown, because of the leadership of our district, and I'm not talking about the board, but the leadership of our former superintendent and our current superintendent, we've had the ability to be able to forecast things that are coming down the line and to be ahead of the curve so that our children are able to compete in the changing world and the changing markets. One of the other strengths of Middletown, I would say without question, is the ability to stretch things out. We have as a district, and I want to make sure I say this clear, but we as a district have been able to accomplish a lot that many other similar districts have not been able to accomplish fiscally. It's evident when you walk even into this portion in this room and into this area to see the things that Middletown has been able to accomplish. And so I say that is all due to the great leadership that has been leading this district for the last decade or more. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo. Absolutely. From your perspective, tell us what you feel are 2 areas of strength for the Middletown School District and why you think they are strengths.
Okay. One area of strength is the 1,200 people who are employed here. And if you look at the teaching staff, they're just amazingly innovative. They're very, very they're hardworking. The example I gave before with the Breakfast of Champions, they're constantly stretching the envelope and bringing more and exciting programs and working their programs much better, much more completely. And the other part of it is administration, that as the pastor said, I'll give you a good example. Senator Schumer came in to dedicate Presidential Park Elementary School, and he walked around and he was looking at the programs, and he thought we were a Scarsdale type of community, that we had a lot of money and a large tax base. And at the time, Dr. Eastwood was superintendent. He says no, and he told Senator Schumer what our actual tax base is. So what I'm saying is that as far as the administration goes, we get the absolute best bang for the buck. There's absolutely no fat in the budget, and that actually could be a problem, because if we start to lose money from the state, you have to cut someplace, and there's really no place to cut. So it's just a wonderful place to be, and everybody works together, and this is why we're so successful.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
2 areas of strength. I'm going right back to my premise, the students. We have a very, very diverse student body, and we do everything possible to meet their needs. And secondly, I think it's the leadership, both administratively and in the classroom. Our classroom teachers are dedicated. Our administrators are dedicated. There are nights when we've had meetings, policy committee meetings, and it's 6:30 at night, and you'll still see administrators and, yes, even teachers there. So Mrs. Jensen beat me to it, but I did want to say to all of our teachers, one of our strengths, Teacher Appreciation Week, and thank you for the job that they do.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
I think the 2 strengths that I see are the opportunities given to the students now. When I went to school, we did not have band in junior high or elementary school. We did not have school plays. I go to these plays and these band performances, and it's packed with parents that are so proud of their children, because the kids are now getting things that I got in high school. And I believe the earlier you give the opportunities to these students, it opens up much more when they get older. And I also think one strength is because of technology. The students and the teachers can text the parents about how these kids are doing during the day in school, instead of waiting till midterms when the parents are like, well, why didn't I know that? Now they're on a daily basis with the communications with the parents and the teachers for the benefit of the children in the school. And with any child or student, the quicker you deal with that problem, the easier it is. So that's, I think, the 2 strengths for the school system.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Question number 4 will be led by Mr. Crescenzo. From your perspective, we're going to go to the other side of the spectrum. Tell us what you feel are 2 areas in the district that could use improvement and why you think they could be improved.
That's much more difficult than your first question. Needing improvement. Boy. Everything is done so well here. Let me
Glad
think.
you got that one first.
Thank you. I have to say that as far as the district goes, and needing improvement, I'm having a very difficult time finding that answer. But this might be a question you have later, so I don't want to waste my time. So I'm going to say this. Areas of concern is the growing population, that our schools are almost at capacity at this point, and there's really no room to put additions on buildings we have now. Our aging infrastructure, looking at Twin Towers, if you poke a hole in the wall to repair an electricals, whatever, you might find asbestos, and that opens up a whole new can of worms. One of the referendums we had in December to replace the roofs on Monhagen and Maple Hill. So that didn't quite answer your question, but those are issues that are coming up, and it's something that faces the district, the Board of Education, and the administration. But the positive part about it is that we're proactive. There's money set aside in fund balance, what have you, and most of these repairs are done without additional cost to the taxpayer.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
I have to agree, this is a very difficult question, because I think that there's been so much positivism that has gone on in this community, in the school district, and the improvements that were made by prior administration and by current administration. The only thing that I could think of, and I don't know how you curtail that, is that we are one of the largest growing school districts, student population-wise. Is that a negative? The only negative that I can see is how do we improve our ability to get fiscal, meaning the FISCAL, support from the state. I'm hoping that we can address your question of what do we need as far as improvement by focusing on the state and what they could do. Foundation aid, state aid, that would keep us in the arena to continue to provide the programs that we have. So I'm going to use improvement, but I'm going to take it outside of the city of Middletown. I'm going to take it statewide.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
I think two areas that need improvement are support staff, and by that I mean more nurses, social workers, crisis intervention workers. I think due to this technology that we have, it's also opened up a can of worms that I don't like a lot of times, and I think the kids are subjected to some stuff that puts them at a very fragile point in their life, and I think it's important they have somebody in school that they could turn to and talk to at that moment. Another area of improvement is what I said before, having the city of Middletown and the school systems of Middletown work together for the benefit of the community as a whole. I think that is really going to be a big piece, and I'm actually looking forward to see where we go, because right now we have opened the doors, and there's been some communication with the city and the school district, so I'm very pleased with that, and I hope that continues.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
I understand what my colleagues say when as it relates to this being a harder question than the first question. However, I might say something that might not be the most popular question, but since you're asking us to be honest, I have to be honest, and I always tell people, if you didn't want me to be honest, then you should have never let a preacher get here. But at the end of the day, in all honesty, I think that one of the areas of improvement that we need is not becoming lethargic and not becoming apathetic. I believe apathy is an enemy. By that, what I mean is that we have had so many great accomplishments that I don't want to see, and I'm not saying that everybody is, it's a very general statement, but I don't want to see us fall into a place of apathy, that we don't feel as though change has got to be continuous. We have had some great accomplishments, and sometimes we sit back on those things and we might think that that's the best way to go, but sometimes we have to be willing to change. I also believe that we have to continually reach out to this community. Generally speaking, many people are disengaged when it comes to this aspect of school. You can see that in the numbers of people that come out to vote, and we have to find a better way to engage people, and so that they will really know what it is that we do and what it is we have to offer.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Question number 5 will be led by Ms. Tobiasen. So now that each of you have told us what motivated you to run and what you believe to be are the responsibilities of a Board of Education, I'm going to start to ask you a series of questions that are often asked of board members. Here's the first one. You're walking down the aisle at ShopRite or any other retailer in Middletown. You're recognized by a parent who's upset with the way a teacher or principal has dealt with a situation involving their child. How do you, as a board member, respond to your constituent?
First of all, you have to diligently and carefully have the person understand that the ShopRite is not the place to be discussing this. More than likely, I would give my home phone number or my email address or arrange a meeting between the individual and myself. There's ears all around, things are misconstrued, things are taken out of context, and the problem mushrooms, and that's what you don't want. You don't want to discuss. First of all, I would also ask that they contacted the building principal. You need to start at the building level. If you do not feel that your problem is being answered, but to reach out to a board member, to me, is a real no-no. I know your concern. I know that, your student's best interest, and I want your student's best interest, but not in the ShopRite, please.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
My profession is a community health outreach worker. I have excellent listening skills and I give good feedback. My response would be to not talk about it in ShopRite because there's confidentiality with the moms and the students, and that can actually create an environment where the parent's going to react even worse. So you want to try to take that out of the equation, and I'd like to set up a meeting with the parent to discuss what was going on and then speak to the other party and then try to get them in the room together. But for a parent to approach me in ShopRite, I feel that problem has already escalated to its top part, and I'd like to deal with it as soon as the next day, truthfully.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. You're walking down the aisle at ShopRite or any other retailer in Middletown, and you're recognized by a parent who's upset with the way a teacher or principal has dealt with a situation involving their child. How do you, as a board member, respond to your constituent?
Okay, seeing as though this happens to me almost every week, I will say this. I personally have been approached quite often by parents, some positive, some negative. But my job is to direct them to the necessary people that can handle that situation. If it's something that I have a perspective on, that I can help to calm them, I will do that. But even with that, I always want to direct them to the necessary people. I heard, I think it was Mrs. Tobiasen who said first to direct them toward the building principal and leadership, and that's the first place that I try to direct them. And then, if necessary, if that's not a viable option, then I direct them toward the central administration. But I never try to answer questions. The one thing that I've learned is never to try to answer questions that I don't have an answer to, or that's above the preview of my ability to be able to handle. So even though it happens every day, you have to learn how to restrain yourself so that you don't say too much and you don't do too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo.
I agree with most everything that was said here, but one thing board members need to keep in mind is that you're a board member only at the table during a board meeting. Outside, you're a board member, but you're a member of the community. You're not acting as an official capacity. So I agree. I will listen. My neighbor very often tells me things that are, she sees as a concern. But I will direct them to the right place, the right person. And again, I think it was a great idea to go to the school, the administrative level, like the high school, the principal, dean, or whatever. But I might, depending on the severity of the perceived issue, I might give the principal a heads up. And I would never through an email, I would never contact an administrator without also copying the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. So I'm not going to tell them all the details. That's for the parent to talk about. So I'll listen, and I hope that the occasions that I've had in ShopRite and on the corner of Watkins and Jay while I'm walking my dog, that I will listen. I'm concerned, I'm compassionate, and I want things to go well here. I don't want anybody with a complaint. I want everybody to be happy with the program, whatever. So that would be my solution.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. In that theme now, question number 6, Ms. Jansen leads off. You're a little flustered after your event at ShopRite, and you decide that you want to go out and enjoy some ice cream at a local shop on a warm summer day when a Middletown taxpayer is requesting your justification for the salary of the superintendent. How do you respond?
I would tell that constituent to look at the size of the Middletown school system and compare it to other county school systems and the amount of programs that is allowed in the school systems for the benefit of the students, and then think about what they said to me.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
All right, seeing as though this happens to me almost every week,
I have some experience in this, which is why you're getting these questions.
yeah, seeing as though this happens to me almost every week, first thing I don't do is I don't get flustered. So I always try to remain calm in every situation, and try to be even keeled. And even if I am a little ticked off, I don't let it show. Never let them see you sweat. But at the end of the day. I don't think that there's much for us to defend when the proof is in the pudding, and sometimes you have to remind people of what is in the pudding. And so if I have the ability to do that, especially if it's somebody that I do know, having again been such a long time Middletown resident and am fairly visible in the community, I deal with them from the point of relationship. If it's somebody I do not know, again, I don't have to prove nothing because the proof is in the pudding, and the data is the data.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo.
The superintendent of this district is the CEO of an organization that has an operating budget, will have an operating budget when this budget is approved in May, in 2 weeks, of $195 million. And if the percentages stay true, next year it'll probably be a $200 million budget. We must have hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure here with buildings and resources and everything that are here. I wouldn't say this to that person, but if the superintendent were working for a Fortune 500 company, they'd be making millions, doing identical jobs. Obviously, it wouldn't be in education, but the amount of work and effort. You come by the school in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, the lights are on in the business office. Mr. Del Moro, Ms. Creedon, Mr. Tuttle, and other people are still working. They're here early in the morning. They make command decisions, and the decisions have been very, very accurate and correct. They're earning their money. There's no doubt about it. To find a person with all the qualities that you need to be an administrator for the faculty. You have to understand their problems. You have to be able to talk with them, to understand the students, to go to all the affairs, and like last night was the Twin Towers Junior Honor Roll Society induction. Both the assistant superintendent and superintendent were there. So they earned their money. There's no doubt in my mind. We had no trouble negotiating the contracts. So
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
Primarily, experience and leadership ability of that person. I think that's what you're paying for. I think you need to look at the caliber of what that person can and is able to bring to the district. And I think that in the past several years, and I know we have been criticized, I think that's what's happened here. We've brought very capable people here to lead us who have been innovative, look at our buildings, look at what it has cost the taxpayers. In most cases, all of our buildings have been zero. No increase to the taxpayers. So you're looking for that type of leadership, whether it be fiscal responsibility or educational responsibility. You pay, you get what you pay for.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Pastor Williams leads us in question number 7. Now you're sitting at the board seat listening to the 2020-2021 budget presentations. You're passionate and adamant regarding 2 items that you feel should be included in the budget. After months of pleading your case, the final budget does not include those items. With the absence of those items that are dear to you, do you still vote for the budget? If yes, why? If no, why not?
So that's a good question. What I've come to find out is, again, Mr. Crescenzo said something a little bit earlier that caught my ear. We are a board of nine individuals who corporately work together. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different experiences. But together, it serves to make us a strong board. If there is something that is in the budget or not in the budget that I am passionate about, it does not mean that I will not support the budget, but it also does not mean that I will continue to be quiet. If I'm passionate about it, then I've got to continue to speak about it even after this budget. If the budget is still fiscally sound, the budget is the right budget, and if we as a whole and as a total feel that this is the right budget, the right way to go, then yes, I will vote for it. But I will continue to speak and continue to fight for those things that I feel passionate about.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo.
As I said in my opening statement, I believe I'm a consensus builder and I'm a team player. That's a very difficult situation to be in. And I used to think that a 9-member Board of Education was very, very large. Most of the boards of ed in the county are 5 members. But it has its pluses because now you have 9, could be 9 differences of opinion. But in the final analysis, when all is said and done, the budget is put together and it's fiscally sound and there's not a tremendous burden on the taxpayers, I'd have to go with it. And just as the pastor said, I would still be passionate. Maybe in the next budget, maybe that following school year, I can build my case as the months go on. There might be time to find money someplace else in a grant or something. But in the final analysis, when all is said and done, and I believe in the budget, and I most likely will, I'll vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
Sometimes it's very difficult, Mr. Estrada, and I've been there, and I've done it. And I've raised opposition, and at the very end, though, it's the consensus. Even though when we go through the budget process, which starts in early January, and the discussions ensue, as I said, I've been there, done it, and at the end, when the vote comes in April to support the budget, the consensus is there.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
This has happened to me when I was a board member of the CSEA, and it's not about my opinion, so I kind of have to leave my ego outside the door and have the best interest of the school system and respect of the fellow board members that they're going to lead in the best interest of the school. So, but I will take on the challenge in the following year to get my way, though, so, okay.
Question number 8, Mr. Crescenzo, you're next up to lead off. Every year, Middletown's fund balance becomes part of the budget discussion, and the district, like many around the state, is sometimes cited by the state controller for having too large a fund balance. What is your view when it comes to the district's fund balance?
Man, we took a pounding, was it 2 years ago, when people who really don't understand the function of a school budget, especially a small city school budget, which is very unique. And the local paper said we had a slush fund. Well, let me tell you how that slush fund works. This year, in December, I spoke about the repairs to the elementary middle school out in Waukegan. We used money from the fund balance to offset the cost. In this budget, the other proposition, we're using money also. I think we're using $1.5 million out of the fund balance. The fund balance is, in essence, could be considered a savings account, and it's a rainy day thing. As I said earlier, our infrastructure is old. It's aging. We're replacing air conditioning units and what have you in a number of our buildings. A lot of some of the money is coming from the fund balance. It's very well maintained. We do work it down when it gets too large. This year we talked about, we have a 1% increase in the budget, and community members are saying, well, why don't you use the fund balance to bring it to zero? There's two problems with that. One problem is that we should not use the money for that purpose, and the other part is that once that money becomes part of the budget, people expect it. So it's like a grant. It's soft money. You might not have that fund balance money in the future to lower the final budget. So our budget is fiscally sound. They do strategic planning here, and the fund balance is a very integral part of that. And I think we're doing a very good job with that.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Mr. Biason.
I assume you're talking about the reserve funds that we've been criticized for. I think that
That's correct.
what folks need to realize is that within that amount of money, there are very different funds. We have a liability fund, we have the capital improvement fund, we have workman's compensation, we have the teacher retirement fund, or teacher layoff in case we have a budget doesn't pass and we do have to make significant cuts. We have the tax certiorari, one of my very favorites, and I will tell it again and again and again. When I first got on this board, we were faced with giving Macy's, the department store, $900 million back as a reduction in their taxes. That hurt. We needed the money somewhere, and I said 900 million. I apologize, it was 900,000. Yeah.
There's a lot of exhaling here.
Nobody caught me, only I caught myself. And I think the other big one is that, and I'm not sure how many folks realize this, but 2 years ago, we went to our own health insurance fund. And so we have money set up in that fund to provide for health insurance. We are out on our own there. We have sought help from our local legislators in Albany, and it gets right down to the deadline, and then we don't get the necessary support to pass the revenue that could be attributed. So we have our money there, yes, and we have used our money to reduce the taxes for property taxes. So it's a very viable source, and I also understand that it's a very controversial source. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place there.
Thank you, Mr. Biason. Ms. Jansen.
I believe the fund balance is a necessary thing, just as you have a rainy day fund at your house that you have for emergency reasons, especially in light of this rainy weather that we're having now. The rain can cause structural damages in a building that you can't even see until the building develops a sick building syndrome. And then the staff gets sick, the students get sick, so it's always good to have something, just like you do in your house, in case of emergency that you can fall back on and rely on.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Pastor Williams.
So can I just say ditto, ditto, ditto?
You can.
But I'll say ditto, 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 and I'll add this to it. so I don't have to go back and go over all of the different aspects of the fund balance. But I will say this, is that it also is a matter of perspective. For some, it might be a problem, but it's also one of the reasons that we as a district also have a top-rated Moody rating. And I don't think many people understand that with the top-rated, top-rated Moody rating, it also allows us to be able to, when necessary, to borrow money at lower interest rates. No fund balance, lower fund balance, higher interest rates, more money, more cost for the district. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. To some, it might seem as though it's a slush fund, but it's not a slush fund. There's no way in the world that you can have a slush fund when you're trying to operate a district this big and trying to accomplish the things that we have accomplished for our students. And so we have to have this cushion to be able to fall back on in the event, because the economy changes and it shifts. And if we don't have something to be able to cushion us when there's a shift, then everything could crumble just like that. And I'm not willing to see any of this crumble. So we've got to maintain that.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Question 9 will be led by Ms. Tobiasen. School district voters recently approved a new capital project to continue positioning the district for the future. How do you feel about improvements to school district assets that don't have a direct impact on the district's core academic programs, whether that be new athletic fields, scoreboards, or music and art programs, and their importance to providing an all-round education?
I think your final statement there, an all-rounded education, that's what we're here for.
I cheated. I gave out the answer before.
Seriously, we passed a bond issue back in December to add on to the high school. And yes, ShopRite, ice cream, wherever, we heard comments. You just put an addition, you put the third floor on. Last week they had the STEM program here. I believe there were over 650 attendees to see what the new technology has done for the curriculum here. We're going to have our cafeteria right now. We need to expand it. So what's going to happen? My beloved space is being taken over. The library is now going to be a cafeteria. And we're going to build a new cafeteria. We're going to build a new media center that's going to be, hopefully, open to the public in the evening. So our responsibility and the challenges we meet to, I lost my train. Your last statement.
Importance to providing an all-round education.
Oh, the importance. The importance is there to provide that all-around education. And again, as I said, if the media center is open to the community, then here's another example of how we can supply support for our community.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
I think that's a great question, because it takes a village to raise a child, and we need sound, safe building systems. And as far as this new media thing, I'm very glad I heard that, because that's one of my goals when I'm elected, is to try to work with the city of Middletown and the school systems, and that media center would be a good way to get the community to come to the school and just relax. So I think it all takes a village.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
I'll put it in one simple word: pride. I think that is very important to us when we see these improvements on things as athletic fields, as the media center, which media center does have a direct effect on our educational system. But when we see things like the athletic field, the signs that we have, the things that are going up, it elicits a sense of pride. I think that pride is very important for our children in this particular day and age, even especially considering the demographics of this city and in this region and our school district. kids need to have something to be proud of, and certainly that is what the Middletown children have in coming into this school district. People pull up in front of our schools and they're amazed at what we have, and I think it also provokes them to emulation, provokes them to try to find out how can we do this as well. So I think that at the end of the day, nobody wants to drive a hoopty. And no one wants to have to park the hoopty 2 blocks down before they get out and go to where they want to go. And so I think that we have to continually to show improvement, not just in our buildings in the academic areas, but in the areas of athletics and in the areas of the infrastructure on the outside, because at the end of the day, it all comes together for a better school experience and educational experience, and most of all, a better life experience for our children, because that's what we want them to have, not just the books and the numbers, but for their experience to be able to take them when they walk out of these doors.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo. Sure. School district voters recently approved a new capital project to continue positioning the district for the future. How do you feel about improvements to school district assets that don't have a direct impact on the district's core academic programs, whether that be new athletic fields, scoreboards, music and art programs, et cetera, and their importance to providing an all-round education?
Well, there's substantial data proving that, especially in the arts, that it improves student performance. So one example would be the strings program. We started out in the elementary grades. Now I believe it goes right through the entire program. Started out with 20 instruments. Now there's hundreds of string instruments, and it has a measurable effect on student performance. This new building we're talking about, it's going to be a TV production studio. It'll be open they'll have after-school programs. The roof, after the roof's completed, there'll be grass on the top. This seems to be the latest part of architecture. We talked about the fund balance. We used $5.5 million from the unappropriated fund balance to lower the amount, and 70% refundable state aid, so there was no increase in tax to the public. Our fields, $24 million, didn't cost us a nickel, brings in thousands of dollars to the city of Middletown and Wallkill. We have a lot of state-sanctioned events. It's just a huge sense of pride. When it was built, it was the most advanced track and field in the state, better than most colleges here, and obviously they've caught up. Now the new Jumbotron out there. So as other people were saying here, Pastor and other, it's a sense of pride. The kids are out there, they're working so hard with their athletics, they come back in and they have to maintain a certain average. There's such a sense of pride. So the academics go up because they want to participate, and it's just a cyclical thing that one thing builds on the other. So it might not be directly related to academics, but it certainly is a big part of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Jansen leads us in our next question. Besides your role as a prospective school board member, do you feel that attending school district functions is part of a school board member's responsibility? If so, why? If not, why not?
I absolutely feel it's a responsibility of a board member. For you to want to have a community, you actually have to be part of that community. You have to participate in events. You have to be present at events. It's a matter of pride and ownership of my community, and I'm actually honored to attend events. Like I said, I have a lot of volunteer stuff I do, and I'm at all those events showing the pride and commitment I have with that civic organization I belong to. I think that's very important.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
It's without question that it's important. I don't think anybody sitting at this table would feel any different. We said something a few minutes ago about, as board members, that we're board members when we're sitting around the table. But the truth of the matter is that the people in this city and the people in this community, they're the ones that we're asking to come out and vote for us, and so they feel that we are representatives of them. And I'm sure that when these parents and these children are at these events and they're performing and they're doing all of the wonderful things that they're doing, I think that it even makes them feel proud to see those that are on the board and those that are in administration sitting in the crowd, supporting them and cheering for them and pushing them on. That's part of our responsibility, is to not just push them in their academics, and not just to push them in all those things, but to let them know that we're here to support them in everything that they do. So it's without question, it's important for us to be at these events.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo.
I mentioned earlier about the Breakfast of Champions. There are other functions that I really do not miss. One is the Renaissance Breakfast, where they honor the new honor roll students. The ROTC review, that is the most impressive thing you'd ever see. The amount of discipline, and an officer, this last time I believe he was from the Marine Corps, comes in and does a review, and there are parents there. And again, maybe it's a selfish thing on my part. I just get so much satisfaction out of seeing these things. The Honor Society, the plays and what have you. You get a chance to see the parents. They're not thinking about academics at this point, or taxes or whatever. They're watching where their tax dollars are going, but they're also watching the progress of their students, of their children, actually. And there's such pride involved in everything that goes on here. And it's just, just an incredible honor to be a part of that. And there's so much going on. I think there's almost, especially at this time of the year, there's something going on almost every afternoon, every evening, from the elementary grades right through the high school. So, yeah, I try to attend as much as possible. Sometimes I'll have to miss something, and I regret it. But for the most part, everything I've ever attended here, I totally enjoyed.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
Absolutely. We can be out at the close of the school year in May and June every night of the week. For example, tonight, this forum, what also was scheduled was Monhegan's National Honor Society induction. And the district placed such emphasis on this forum that we've moved the Monhegan National Honor Society's induction. One of the suggestions, and I think it's an excellent one, is that each board member be assigned to a building to ensure that there is our visibility at certain events and in that building. And again, we'll bring that subject up again and if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I will make sure that I do bring it up. But I think that's an easy way, because there's no way, with all the concerts and that we can be at every occasion, every single night. So just a thought.
Tell that to John Perino.
Thank you.
Well,
He makes everything.
right. But, when you stay and you're there for the entire performance, it does take a toll, Mr. Crescenzo, on your family.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Our next question, Pastor Williams, you lead off. In your view, how safe is the school district, and why do you hold that view?
In my view, I think that our school district at this particular stage is in a very safe position in light of our experiences just a few years ago with the swatting and all of the different things that we have put in place with the inception of this new SRO program, with all of the other improvements that we have made to the entryways, to the windows, to that, I feel that we are safe in that respect. Is there always room for improvement? Yes, there is always room for improvement, because we must ever be vigilant in this changing world as society shifts and things shift, and it's it's a true statement that no matter what anybody says, evil exists in this world. And so we've got to always be vigilant and sober-minded and continue to grow. Am I comfortable as a parent in the safety that's provided? Even when we were going through our swatting issues a few years ago, I was still confident, not just in the safety that was provided, but I was confident in the staff and their training and their concern for my children. So what more can I say? Yes.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Mr. Crescenzo.
This could be my favorite question of the night. We're safe. The SRO program was an incredible addition to the safety of the district. The fact that there's a police car parked out in front of every one of our buildings, we were lucky to be able to work this out. It's very, very expensive. It's almost $800,000 a year, but you can't put a price tag on safety. There are things that go on inside each building that you don't know about, and you most likely won't know about it because some things are better left unsaid. You don't want to get too much information out to the community. So when they do drills and what have you, they don't do the same thing every time. They mix it up. There are, as the pastor alluded to, there are hardening, hate using that word, to our buildings to enhance safety. In this new budget, we were lucky enough to get $450,000 more in community schools aid, and that's going to give us 2 support counselors and 3 crisis interventionists, which will help from tensions inside the building. So we're safe. The SROs are not the absolute total answer to the safety situation, but they certainly enhance safety, and I'm confident that I'm very confident walking through these buildings. Another example is if you go over to Presidential Park, the way the locking system, from the office they can lock every door in the building. So it's very well done. The administration brings these concepts to the Board of Education. We talk about it. If it's fiscally feasible and it looks, it looks like it's going to work, we talk about it, and if it's going to work, we'll vote for it. So it's constantly evolving, and your children are safe in our buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Mr. Biason.
Well, we have the SRO programs. We also have our own security within the buildings. We have put protective film on our windows, and we have drills. I guess I was taken back by that comment.
I'm sorry.
So I feel that we are very, very safe.
Thank you, Mr. Biason. Ms. Jansen.
I feel the buildings are as safe as I can comfortably predict, because 10 years ago I would never predict some of the stuff that's been going on in the school system, so it still blows my mind that that has happened. And I too feel the mental safety of the children are very important, which is why I'm glad we're going to be hiring the additional staff for that. And we also talk to the kids in my family on what they need to do in case something happens. I went to a training given by the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and it's not just in the school system, it's in any large building, including a mall, and they know what they need to do to get home safely. So I'm very comfortable with the school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Mr. Crescenzo, you lead off our next question. How do you feel about the current relationship between the school district and the respective municipalities it represents, primarily the city of Middletown and the town of Walk Hill?
Good question. My philosophy is that 2 entities are incredibly important to the values of your property value, the quality of life in your community, and that is the municipal government and the school system. It's not a secret that there are real estate agents who actually promote our school district to bring people in to buy homes. The relationship between the city and the district has improved. There's been a lot of cooperation both ways. Actually, I mean, even in small matters like the Heritage Trail, the Common Council came to us to talk about moving the trail in front of Mount Hagen. So we're having discussions, and they're very positive discussions. The mayor came in a couple of meetings ago to tell us about the upgrades and what have you that are going on in the city. So we were working back and forth. I believe, I don't know, what's going on between the superintendent and the mayor, but I know it's a positive relationship. I don't know how often they converse, but it's better, and I believe it's improving. And as time goes on, it'll get even better. We have liaisons. A board member goes to a common council meeting. Common council member will come to the Board of Education meeting. So we're heading in a very, very good direction, a very, very positive direction.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen.
That's a happy note. I think the relationship both between the city and Middletown and Wallkill has greatly improved. We have our SROs that come from the city of Middletown as well as from the town of Wallkill. The mayor did come, and it was a very exciting meeting where he shared many new expectations for the city. And I believe the Supervisor Diana will be, I believe, at either this Thursday night's meeting or in 2 weeks. It had to be postponed for recognitions that were given. In fact, I have to admit, a few weeks ago, the meeting went a little late and we got a little silly. So we're trying to spread out the invitations for the various groups to come. It's very important that they come, both our elected officials and our students for recognitions. So I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that the relationship between both municipalities has improved and has improved greatly in the last year.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
That was one of the platforms that I'd like to continue as a board member, is to continue with having the relationship with the town of Wallkill and the city of Middletown. It could be a great thing for the students and the teachers and the community at whole. We can share information, we can have events together. If one event can't be done somewhere in Middletown, it could be done somewhere in the town of Wallkill, maybe in the school system. It's just good for everybody involved. I think it's a great thing that we can finally sit down in the same room and have a conversation. So I hope that stays on that path.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams.
I want to make a point perfectly clear, is that yes, there's been great improvement, but I also want to make it perfectly clear that over the years, the city of Middletown, town of Wallkill, and the enlarged city school district of Middletown, we've always collaborated on many issues, even when it came to parks and recreation, when it came to many of the events, many of the things that the municipalities have, many times are held within our buildings. And so there's always been a relationship. I think that in any relationship, you're going to have those times when you have stress and when you're going to have disagreement. But the strength of it is to be able to continue to work together and to grow despite those times when you have disagreement. And so going forward, I think that we have great things that we have seen from the city and from the town. We are all bought into, have all bought into wanting to see not just our district, but to see our community as a whole grow. And so there's such a positive outlook. And it's all been done because we've taken time to take an introspective look at ourselves as well, and to find out what things we have in common more than what we have as differences. And so I'm looking forward to the great things that we'll all do together in the coming years.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. That completes our intensive questioning, and now we move on to what we're going to call the Estrada lightning round. There's 5 questions.
Where's the buzzer?
There's 5 questions. Most of them are related to national or state issues involving education. So I ask that each of you, when I call out your name, just respond yes or no to the questions, no elaboration. There is one question that is not yes or no that just gives you a choice of one of 3, so to speak. So we'll start off with Ms. Tobiasen in the lightning round. Do you believe in allowing teachers, if properly licensed, to carry a gun in school? Yes or no?
I'm going to say no.
Ms. Jansen?
No.
Pastor Williams?
No way.
And Mr. Crescenzo?
No hesitation, absolutely not.
Next question, we're going to start off with Ms. Jansen. Do you believe in charter schools under the state's existing guidelines? Yes or no?
No.
And make sure you bring up your microphone so that way the folks can hear you back home. You could repeat your answer, Ms. Jansen.
No.
Okay,
Under the existing guidelines, you said?
correct.
No.
Under the existing guidelines, no.
No.
Thank you. Pastor Williams, you're next. Do you feel nationally that districts rely too heavily on long-term suspensions as a form of discipline? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Crescenzo?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Crescenzo, you lead off. Do you feel the state's current teacher tenure system should either, this is not a yes/no question, this is your one of three options. Do you feel the state's current teacher tenure system should be kept, changed, or eliminated?
Can you explain change?
You want to make amendments to the existing way that the tenure system's run.
Man. Changed.
Ms. Tobiasen?
Changed.
Ms. Jansen?
Change.
And Pastor Williams?
Ditto, ditto, ditto.
Okay. And our last lightning round question, Ms. Tobiasen, you lead off. Nationally, some people are looking to dissolve the U.S. Department of Education. Do you feel in this day and age that there is a role for the federal government to play in public education? Yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Jansen?
Yes.
Pastor Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Crescenzo?
With the proper person, yes.
Thank you for the lightning round version
That's really foul, I want
of
you to know.
our forum this evening. Next up, we'll have our closing statements. Each of our candidates drew straws once again for the closing statement, and by chance, they've all elected to stay in the same positions that we had for the openings. So you'll have 3 minutes for your closing statement, and Mr. Crescenzo, you lead off.
I got to remember this is 3 minutes. I kind of squandered the opening. I guess I'm going to start with, I'm finishing my 8th year. That's 192 sessions. I've been out 6 out of 192. I take this position incredibly seriously. As I said in the beginning, I'm a team player. I look for consensus. I'm not a rubber stamp. If I'm not in agreement with something, I will argue my point intelligently but respectfully. I've got 8 years of experience, so if I'm reelected in 2 weeks, I'll hit the ground running. There's no learning curve. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy every aspect of this program, of the school, the administrators, the faculty and staff. I've made friends within this program, and I just enjoy what we do here, and I enjoy the success. And another part, as I'm retired, so I can give as much time to this as I possibly can. So I guess in closing, this has been a good experience for me. I've learned a lot. You always learn. When I was president of my teachers union for 12 years, and I kind of brought that in my first year or two, but it was so different. So I had a different perspective, and I learned from everyone I've spoken with, every superintendent, every assistant superintendent, teachers, principals, and other staff. So you're never too old. You keep learning, and these things that I've learned, I'm applying to my role as a Board of Education member. So hopefully you see me in a good light, and I'm really looking forward to being a Board of Education member for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Tobiasen?
In conclusion, I'd like to ask for your support in the upcoming school election on Tuesday, May 21st. I'd like you to help me to continue my work to ensure that all students can be all that they possibly can be. I want to continue to support the administration's efforts to offer our students quality and sound educational experiences while maintaining one of the lowest tax rates in the Mid-Hudson Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tobiasen. Ms. Jansen.
I would like this opportunity given to me because I see a lot of pride in our community, and it's an honor for me to be part of that movement. I'm also very pleased when I hear students talk about the school system and their teacher. There's no more problems going to school, not even with the food. They like the food here. So I think that's very encouraging, and I'd like to be part of that very positive energy that I'm feeling off the school system lately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen. Pastor Williams, your cleanup.
One of my proudest moments was when I was first elected to this board. I'm very passionate about not just what we do here as a board, but I'm very passionate about our community and very passionate about education. I would like to continue to do that, continue to be involved. I want to turn the naysayers around. I want to those that have no understanding as to what we do. I want to educate them as to what we do as a district, what we do as a board, what is the impact on our community. Sims used to say, "An educated consumer is our best customer." And I think it's important for us as board members to educate the community as to everything that we do, so that we'll all buy into what's being done, because our children are not our future, our children are our today. And so I'm very passionate about that, and I hope that if I'm elected, that we can continue to move toward that way and move toward that future and move toward that today, in order to be able to ensure that our community continues in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Before I get to our closing remarks, let's give these candidates a great round of applause. They did outstanding this evening. I'd like to thank some of the folks behind the scenes here. Mr. Victor Iraqi, who's not here currently, but he was here earlier setting up both the camera and the audio system. He is the theater manager here at Middletown High School. Vesh Vora over on the far side, who is the tech manager, so to speak, this evening, as well as our audio folks, Crystal Moisette and LaDonna Hudson. And the gentleman behind the camera up in the back of the auditorium is Brian Seaback. We also have Mr. Kevin Witt, who is our community liaison, taking pictures that you'll probably see somewhere on the website soon enough. And Mr. Andy Warren, who didn't know until about 2 minutes before this event started that he was going to be our timekeeper this evening. So I want to thank all of you for being part of this evening. And we also want to thank our buildings and ground folks who set the place up this evening, and they do an outstanding job with all of our buildings throughout the district as well. Let's give them a round of applause. Next up, we want to thank the residents of the Middletown School District for their continual support for public education. We want to thank our candidates, Linda Jansen, Rose Tobiasen, Vincent Crescenzo, and Pastor John Williams, for taking their civic responsibilities to the next level and giving back to their community through board service. Well, Middletown, now it's in your hands. Make your voices heard and your votes count by coming out on Tuesday, May 21st, to vote on your school budget, the $9.5 million resolution, which is no increase to the tax base, and for 3 individuals to serve on your school board for the next 3 years. On Tuesday, May 21st, voting sites at Truman Moon, Presidential Park, and Middletown High School will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. for registered voters living within the boundaries of the Middletown School District. On behalf of the Middletown School Board, I'm Ed Estrada, thanking you for joining us this evening, and we want all of you to have a good night. Thank you once again.